Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to this FP&A Trends Webinar, where today we'll be looking at deploying AI and ML for planning, budgeting, and forecasting. My name is Hans Gobin. I'm the International FP&A Board Ambassador, and today I will be hosting this call. Just to let you know, we have over 920 people joining us from 65 countries around the world. So fantastic number of people, but also we have some great presentations for you. So without further ado, let's look at what we have for you on the agenda. We will look at key concepts and definitions, some stats as well. We will then move on to look at machine learning for forecasting and budgeting, the importance of good data for AI deployment, and finally, we'll look at leveraging technology through Good EPM tool in AI and ML. We'll do some conclusions and recommendation, and then we will go and do our fantastic Q&A session. So now let me introduce to you my panel. So panelists, if you can join me on the camera, please, and come off mute as well, that would be fantastic. Our first speaker today will be Hashim Ahmed, who's CFO at Jaguar Mining, joining us from Toronto in Canada. And today, Hashim will take us through machine learning for forecasting and budgeting. Hashim, you're very welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Excited to join this.
Thank you, Hashim. Our second speaker is Tanya Schleyer-Schlinger, who is VP OneSource at Deutsche Bahn. Frankfurt FP&A board member joining us from Frankfurt, and today she will look at, in particular, the importance of good data for great AI deployment. Tanya, great to have you with us again.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Tanya. Last but not least, we've got Cody Johnson, who is Manager Product Management at Workday. Cody joins us from Denver in Colorado. And today, of course, he'll take us through how to leverage technology for good AI ML through a good EPM. Cody, fantastic to have you with us today.
Yep, glad to be here.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've got our three panelists. They have three great sets of presentation, lots of insight to come. But for now, I'll ask my panelists to turn their webcam off and go on mute. I've got a few slides of housekeeping to go through before we start our presentation. So today, our technology sponsor is Workday. We all know Workday. They help you solve your greatest business challenges. There's a link here if you would like to learn more. So thank you very much, Workday, for making this possible for us today. We've also got this slide on FP&A Trends Group. What are our projects and initiatives we're working on? As you all know, we are now in 29 cities, 16 countries, 4 continents. The last 2 chapters opened this year is Austin and Miami, and we are opening another one in Europe very, very shortly, so it'll be up to 30. Let's not forget the FP&A Insight, our digital community, what we do, our website there, as you well know, best practice FP&A webinars. You are sitting in one today, our LinkedIn group member, our digest as well. So look out for those, connect and sign up for these, and you'll be getting them. And finally, FP&A education, a lot of research and consulting, workshops, consultancy, AI ML FP&A committee, very relevant to what we're talking about today. And finally, we do a lot of surveys. One is due out, 2023 is due to come out in July, and a lot of research and white papers as well. So a little bit about us there. Let me very quickly remind you of some key housekeeping items. We are on for an hour today. We have got 2 polling questions where we would very much like your participation. So please, when I launch it, please try and click on the answer that is relevant to you. We want to know how you're doing. We've also got an interactive Q&A sessions, and the way you can ask the questions is via the chat box. So please tell us your question, but also tell us who you want the question to be answered by. If you can. You can download the presentation in handout section today, or if you don't, you will get a copy and a link to the recording after the meeting. Also, when I close the meeting, there is a feedback session, very quick one, 30 seconds or so, a minute, maybe max. Please tell us how we did, and what would you like to hear of in terms of subject matter to any presentation in the future. So that's the housekeeping items over. A quick introduction before I go to our first panelist today. Key definitions: AI, ML, predictive analytics. I'll let you read that. There are sometimes some confusion, but it's good to kind of get all the confusions out of the way. But what I really wanted to share with you are some stats that I've shared before in different webinars, but very relevant to today. How much time do we spend on low value activities? 45%, whilst only spending 33% of our time on higher value activities. 33% versus 55% is the desired. So we're spending a lot of our time on low value activities. And then if we look at forecast, how long does it take us to produce a forecast? I know it says 42% take less than a week, but if you look at less than a couple of days, it's only 21%. So the majority of us are taking 2 weeks or so to produce a forecast. Not good news. And then of those that are doing forecasts, only 39% are happy with their forecast, the accuracy, the timeliness, etc. So again, a lot of time being spent doing something that we're not happy about, and it's not accurate. What happens when we change this and we introduce the use of AI and ML, which is the second sort of column there you could see. First one is the average, where you could see the 33%. But very quickly, that percentage moves by 16% to 49%. So people are spending more time or more percentage of their time on higher value activities because they are using AI and ML. So great thing to kind of leave you with in terms of why use AI, why use ML, what are the benefits. And today, our panelists will take you through every single aspect of those, how to do it, what do you need to do, what are the benefits, etc. So what we will cover today is our first presentation will be on continuous planning with AI. What does that mean? How do you do it? Secondly, we'll go and look at the importance of great data for very good AI. And finally, we'll move on to look at leveraging technology for AI. So with that, let me reintroduce Hashim Ahmed, the CFO at Jaguar Mining, who will take us through the first presentation and machine learning for forecasting and budgeting. So I will go off the camera and over to you, Hashim, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Hans. Let's go to the next slide. I'll walk our audience through some of the concepts of and experiences that we have implemented and what lessons learned we got. The idea and purpose of my presentation is to stir some creative juices in our audience's mind and think out of the box in how continuous learning, AI and machine learning can be implemented as part of FP&A. So as you know, the conventional FP&A cycle is pretty linear, it's repetitive, and as Hans communicated before, a significant amount of time is spent in preparing and updating those forecasts. What you can do with respect to continuous planning is you can get rid of that human factor, or at least you can reduce that human factor, remove the bias, and use the forecast for better purposes looking ahead. Next slide. So once again, how did we approach continuous planning as part of our organization? We picked up a basic rule, we did not try to automate or implement concepts of AI throughout the planning process. We picked up the big processes, the major items, and that's where we made small tweaks. And I'll give you some examples ahead of what those tweaks could be. And through that process, we made a what I call a continuous loop planning cycle with less and less human intervention, making it more agile as well as based on forward-looking information rather than analysis of the historical reasons. Going to the next slide. So here's some examples of continuous planning and the implementation within our organization. Once again, the purpose of these examples is to stir some juices in your mind and, creative juices to make sure that how can you utilize them in your organization. We have a process, of course, like any other organization, where we use purchase orders and sign new contracts. In a typical planning cycle, the price of a product is changed every quarter or once a year, once the team goes in and changes it manually. Through our process, we created a loop where whenever a purchase order is signed or a new contract is signed, that feeds directly into the plan, and the plan is updated. So you see here, it's a very small step, but it takes out human intervention and makes your plan more agile. Similarly, on the labor side, you've got people going on vacations. Sometimes people are leaving the organization and joining. That creates some gaps in your labor availability in the organization. Once again, we created a loop there whereby the planning of headcount directly feeds into the plan as well, and the labor availability is updated in the plan automatically. A few more examples on the next slide. On the maintenance side, we once again approach some very economical wear sensors and telematics that we installed on our vehicles. What happens with these monitor the availability, the utilization of those vehicles. But the planning part really came in whereby we took averages of those consumptions. And if the average for the past 2 months is more than 5% of our current assumption in the plan, by default, the plan updates. So here you once again created a loop whereby you're using smart technology and algorithms to update your plan without human intervention. And this makes your plan more agile as well. Similarly, CapEx, a lot of organizations are delayed in their CapEx, sometimes internal issues, sometimes logistical issues. So once again, the logistical issue in terms of time delays can be linked, and we did this as part of the loop in our planning process as well. So our CapEx spend, the timing of that, adjusts automatically based on the delays in logistics. Next slide, we'll review what were the critical success factors and how did we implement those as part of our journey, which is still continuing. First of all, you need to make sure you're in a very strong cloud-based computing platform. Of course, most of the organizations these days are, but that really enables you to implement more of these concepts that I've talked about. You need to make sure your financial statement close process is condensed, at least on a monthly basis, and to a certain extent on a quarterly basis as well. You can go through a longer process for close at the end of the year, but those interim processes should be more agile so that it enables a smoother transition to AI and machine learning technologies. Data digitization, and some of our panelists are going to talk more about it. Data digitization is key to the success of AI and machine learning, and there's so many organizations which have not achieved this step. It's surprising. So make sure you can digitize as much data as you can. And then once you've done the first 2 steps of this journey, the last one is where you can then make it more mature. You can go towards automation, further automation, and we'll talk about that in the next slide. So what were the challenges we faced through our implementation journey? I think the first one was mindset. A lot of people think that if their organization is currently where it is, the journey to AI and machine learning is a big jump. And what we've seen small steps taken every day, small process modifications towards AI every day will accumulate to a much bigger change. So you have to really look at this as small steps over a continuum of change. you have to make sure you make your organization less bureaucratic in terms of approval. So you have to agree the parameters with the board. And similarly, you can then once again go towards a more mature pattern recognition, scenario simulations, and make your AI more robust ahead. Next slide.
I think that's the end of your presentation, Hashim. Thank you very much for a fantastic set of presentation. I mean, you know, my sort of key takeaway was on the page that was prior to this, you know, where, you know, there was simple and small step. And one of the key thing was automation, but simple and small, you know, not, you know, big bang. And you've got to find out where it is you can enhance, and you go ahead and do it. And you've given 4 great examples there as well. So thank you very much for that. We've learned from you. Now let us go and look at our polling question and find out where our board members or our members are utilizing AI and ML or not. So to what extent would you say your organization uses AI and ML in finance and FP&A? A, no AI and ML is being used. B, we use AI and ML we plan to use it in the future. C, we use some AI and ML. And finally, D, yes, AI and ML is used in finance and FP&A throughout. If you can vote, please. So once again, to what extent would you say your organization uses AI and ML in finance? No, we don't use it first. Second, we plan to use it. Third, some usage. And then finally, yes, we use it thoroughly. I will now close the vote and share it with our members here. So 52% say no AI and ML is being used at all. 33%, plan to use it in the future. That's 85% already. 13% use some, only 1% are comfortable enough to say they are using it throughout. Hashim, any insight from this outcome here from you?
I think, yes, it's great to, it's actually very interesting to look at these results. And as you mentioned, 85% shows that, I'll tell you, this was a very similar scenario in our organization. There was a lot of resistance with respect to mindset. I keep revisiting that. The small changes, look at it from a not a big leap, but a small step. See what manual processes are there in your planning cycle, how you can automate it one at a time. And that's how the journey begins.
Absolutely, and hopefully there's a lot to learn from you know, this webinar, and people will take the next step to go ahead and do this. Fantastic. Moving on, we've got a great session here. Thank you very much for voting, first of all. Now we go on to discuss one of the questions that Hashim would like to put through to our panelists. Hashim, please do join us as well. So the question here is, how do you leverage human intelligence with AI in your organization? Tanya, can I come to you for an answer first, please?
We're probably very much along the road Hashim and his organization took. First of all, you start automating routine tasks. And at the furthest step, you reach out to your business units to understand them more properly, to gain more insights, to get further towards the true business drivers. And with that, certainly with nowadays technology improves, advances, it's less pricey. You gain customer insights, for example, you never had before in order to push your revenues, or you start looking at trends and recognizes what is happening. So I think it's today easier to improve business and grow with AI.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Tanya. Cody, over to you.
Yeah, so coming from a technology perspective, the way we're thinking about this is in the planning processes, it's really around augmenting opposed to replacing finance, right? Like there's so much human judgment that comes in the planning process. So really that's the entire key and built into how we're thinking about, you know, embedding that into our platform.
Brilliant, thank you. Hashim, any comments from you?
You know, I think just to build up on those two comments by our panelists, what comes to AI is generally viewed as a very rigid in-the-box solution. You have to leverage human intelligence because human intelligence is far more flexible, and you have to bring that flexibility into your AI. So think of it that way. This is how you're going to make AI more useful for us.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And from all of your perspective, people always think of it as a threat instead of, no, it is human intelligence is very much needed. This is what is going to drive AI to the next level. Yeah, our skill set will change, will evolve, and will evolve with AI, absolutely. And we need to move on with time as well. So fantastic set of answers there to this question. Great presentation from you, Hashim. Let us now quickly move on to our next session, which is on importance of good data. So if we all leave Tanya on the camera, and Tanya, very quickly here again, you will be talking to us about the importance of great data. So over to you whenever you're ready.
Thanks for handing over, Hans. My organization, Deutsche Bahn, we provide services for the public mass transportation in Germany. It's 10 times as large as the largest airline in the world. So no matter we talk about big data. Of course, we'd like to contribute to green mobility even further, because our aim is to get another 1 billion passengers on board. With this, we need definitely to become more attractive to our customers. And likewise, for this, we need to increase our capacity when aiming at the target. While financial and operational metrics such as utilization rates or our product availability are nevertheless important to be looked at, but we have to watch our competitiveness, and that needs very much our passion at the same time. But what did we learn from the experience so far? What are the keys for thriving in a persistently changing world? I guess instead of relying on ad hoc measures only or hedges against specific scenarios, the outperformance is, amongst others, a question of smart implementation of AI and ML. And therefore, we use technology to keep costs under control, push our revenues, and contribute to sustainability. But we still struggle with one quite important question. Can we rely on the data provided for the analysis? And who in our organization might be able to answer the question? Who is in charge? On the next slide, I'll share with you some analytics discussions that provide more insights and show the importance of good data for FP&A. When we look at our challenges in planning and forecasting, we noticed two things. One, transparency of information from FP&A to the business units, and of course, vice versa plays an important role. Two, our financial forecasting improves with an even better understanding of our key value drivers. At the end, it needs more than a monitoring of price and volume to explain KPIs. And those pushing the levers of our value drivers usually can be found in our business units, operations or sales and marketing, but less than the FP&A. And that's why we started our AI models at first to reduce, for example, energy consumption. The results of a model that optimizes driving behavior in order to reduce that fuel consumption, that is used by our train drivers, of course, but at the same time with the same database for the FP&A. It's one shared database, one shared algorithm, and we came up with 8% less fuel consumption within the last 18 months. So that is quite successful. Before, we shared the information of driving behavior with FP&A, and we purely relied on volume and prices KPIs. Today, the ML model, which is an artificial intelligence version as well, one method, helps the train driver to adjust his driving very much at the point of time he's on the driver's seat. And parallel to this, it helps us in FP&A to gain more insights. A second example doesn't seem to be so evident at first sight, what the benefit of FP&A is. And when looking at information regarding our train tickets, we get better passenger information en route. So information on the punctuality of trains, it pays for a higher customer satisfaction. At the same time, it's necessary for invoicing, because in our invoicing, since we hold the contracts with the public hand, our train services are reflecting as well, our invoices reflect as well the service we provided and the quality of our train rides. Plus, then there's the information, of course, en route to our passengers, and punctuality overall improves the services when we know specifically where the need arises to work on a more punctual train ride and where it's passing through our thresholds. So running 22,000 trains a day brings you immediately to big data, to advanced analytics, and of course, the use of AI. The two cases that I've shown you, what do they have in common? The one is their analytics budget for those analytics cases, that's pretty significant, so it's costly. Then they both rely on the quality of data which they use. And third, there is no metric. We didn't have that before we used AI to evaluate the quality of the input data or on the quality of the analytics results. Let me show you on my next slide what we did to cope with pain. Our instinct tells us that investing large sums in AI and ML to innovate and to win the competitive edge, that should be beneficial. So amongst other quality issues that come up, we usually assume that the data is complete, the data is accurate, that we use for our AI models, and there's no question about it. In the past, when we tried to get an answer on the quality of that data, we asked the application manager about the quality of the data provided by the app. Continuing to do so might be a little short-sighted. Why? Well, I've picked the example of our passenger information about the punctuality of trains. The data product punctuality in our process derives from very different sources. And those different sources today are data silos. They don't necessarily belong to the same business unit or even our own organization. And to visualize this, our multiple data provided are highlighted by different colors. What a colorful picture, isn't it? So how did we overcome the challenge to find the one person in charge? In order to receive a certificate for your quality as a company, in Germany, we usually describe processes and audit those, and we add and stick a responsible person to the process. Since data usually flows over any process and tackles a few applications, as in the example shows, at the end, and it leads to a data product at the end of that process. And for this reason, in our organization, we linked that data ownership to the process ownership. Our data owners are responsible for providing compliant data, managing its data quality along that process. So how did we get started? In the first step, there was a data officer, and he supports the onboarding of each data owner. Together, they analyze the data flow within the process and describe data pain points along that process. So metric gets installed, and we monitor the data quality. Those quality performance indicators lead to enriching the performance management of a process. And such QPIs, quality performance indicators, in our company get added to the performance review of each business unit for continuous improvement and monitoring. So the FP&A function monitors those performance indicators, including the QPIs on a routine basis. In cooperation with our data officer, you can add data quality indicators and boost your results of the analytics models, of course. So in return, you not only get a better quality of your databases, but but as well, the fidelity on the process fulfillment can be reached. Let me briefly share how we rolled out the concept of data ownership to enhance data quality. Since our organization drives green mobility and our strategy promotes that pay in. So we follow the strategic set Any prioritizing of strategic projects is our basis for choosing the process which supports those projects and the data within. Finally, I'd like to point out that a rather technical task, the monitoring of the data quality on my last slide. As highlighted before, incompleteness of data can make dramatic changes to results of your AI model. And you probably already heard of digitizing data. So recording the data is accompanied by monitoring, and any inconsistency automatically generates an incident handling to force a new complete data delivery. With the monitoring, you need the KPIs generated in the monitoring to get visualized as well for the management to be able to get in charge and make it happen to improve data quality. So that was a sneak peek on data quality, and I hand back to you, Hans.
Tanya, thank you very much. Fantastic presentation, and you know, this shows us how important data is, but not just how important data it is, how do you keep that continuous process around data as well to make sure they are always relevant and you're working really hard at making sure that this is correct. So we've seen from you, Tanya. Let us go and find out from our audience, what are they doing as far as data is concerned? So please vote. To exploit the enormous potential of AI, what efforts do you put in validating your data? No major effort is done at all, first. Second, manual or semi-automated checks. Third, KPIs to monitor the data input interface. And finally, continuous quality assurance throughout the whole business and the company. So please, if you can vote, I'll read it out again. To exploit the enormous potential of AI, what efforts are you guys doing within your organization in validating your data? First, no major effort. Second, manual or semi-automated checks. Third, KPIs to monitor it. And finally, continuous process-driven quality assurance is being used. So I'm now going to close it. Thank you very much for voting and share the results with our panel. So 12% say they don't do anything at all. 64% say there is some level of manual or semi-automated check. 17% use KPI, 8% use continuous process-driven quality assurance. Tanya, is that what you were expecting?
Let me put it in other words. Expecting is one thing. It's obvious that data quality matters, and that's a very good sign. How much your effort is to move on to automate that data quality checks, that is probably part of your development within the organization. But I'm very happy that almost 2/3 are looking at it. And that's one of the very important bases for implementing AI, because you want to get true results out of that.
Yeah, absolutely spot on. I think the majority there, 2/3, if not slightly more, are already looking at things, but it's automizing it really, and also getting that 12% to move to the next level to just make sure that at least there is some check, and then to move on to the next level. So fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for voting, and Tanya, thank you for sharing your insight. You've got a question for the other panelists now, haven't you? So let me ask the other panelists to come and join us. And of course, it's got something to do with data. So what would be your first few steps to digitize data within your own sort of organization? Hashim, can I come to you first? What will your answer be to this?
Yes, small to medium-sized enterprises have this as a bigger challenge than larger organizations, because generally they view they don't have enough capacity to digitize. What we did was we actually, as I said in my earlier presentation, look out for economical telematics or sensors or IO, which is basically IoT, Internet of Things, you can install in your organization to digitize as much data as you can. So our approach was to look at those small solutions and move towards digitization through that manner.
Absolutely. So whatever small investment will bring you the most sort of quick outcome and good outcome as well. Fantastic answer there. Thank you very much. Cody, what will your answer be?
Yeah, again, slightly different angle, right, from a technology perspective, but I do think technology is key here. And one of the things that I see from our clients is there's a broad maturity spectrum for companies, and the importance of getting that data digitized and into the planning process can really help you with that driver-based type of planning that moves you to that next level, and then being able to incorporate AI and ML. So I'll just hit on the importance of, you know, really taking those steps to do it. I think is incredibly important.
Absolutely, which is exactly what we've seen from Tanya. Tanya, any closing comments? What would you like to add?
We had two very nice insights. Both Hashim and Cody addressed different point of views, but at the end, Hashim talked about low-hanging fruit. You should get started with those just to get used to working with it, to have a few success stories in your organization, to find more readiness to get started when you roll it out throughout your company. And yes, Cody, it's a lot about technical. A lot about technology, but technology is getting ready to be more priceless than before. So it's not only a question of large organizations. It's not at the end ChatGPT we're talking about, not at all. But as soon as you align any efforts you have to reach your strategic goals, you're probably well set off.
Yeah, no, absolutely great points there. So thank you very much for answering this question, and thank you very much, Tanya, for great presentation. Before I just move to the next session, I'd just like to highlight to the audience, please keep sending your questions. We've got loads already. We will try and answer some of them today, but the remainder that we don't answer will definitely be answered to you via email directly. So please keep sending it. Thank you very much. So we now move on to our next session, which is all on leveraging technology through good EPM in AI and ML. And to do that, we've got Cody Johnson, who is from Workday. Cody, I will disappear and you please take over. Over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Hans. And thanks for the rest of the panelists for the presentations they've gone through. So what I wanted to highlight is when clients come to us looking for a solution, here are a bunch of the different problems that they're trying to solve. And these will probably sound familiar to everyone. If we looked at kind of some of the key statistics Hans highlighted earlier, these kind of fall in line. So I'll highlight a couple. You know, how do you feel about the accuracy of the budgets and forecasts? Does your team spend too much time actually building up that forecast, but that by the time that you get it out, it's actually outdated and not useful? I think kind of the key is there's lots of technology solutions that help with a lot of these things, but now what I want to highlight is how AI and ML can actually bring value in technology to help solve some of these. So as we look at some of the ways of value that can bring, with pulling in machine learning and AI into the process, one of the biggest things is really being able to augment those planners. Again, I said this earlier, but it's not about replacing, but it's about augmenting and really helping those folks make better, faster decisions across the board. We talked about accuracy, 39% were satisfied. The idea here is we know that our forecast is never going to be 100% complete, but if there are ways to make that more accurate, everyone would love that. And there's lots of opportunities with machine learning to help with that plan accuracy. Another aspect when we're talking about developing that budget or forecast is really around using machine learning to drive the forecast. And really the way we think about this is, how do we get a more intelligent starting point to get that baseline that then you can pull in that judgment from those planners on top to really plan by exception opposed to doing it manually bottoms up every time. And then the last, if I think about kind of these different jobs to be done in this space, it's not only generating the forecast, but it's also explaining the variances of what happened. There are lots of ways that by embedding AI and ML into the processes, you can really enhance that reporting and analysis and get to those insights that can be really helpful. And then the last point here is just what we talked about earlier, which is, everyone wants to move on this continuum from kind of these manual exercises to this more strategic view. And so by leveraging machine learning and AI in the overall processes, there are ways to really automate and get out of some of those manual exercises that folks are spending a lot of time on, and really moving toward that strategic, getting finance with that seat at the table, helping making those business decisions that I think are critical and key to finance. Now, to highlight this in a planning solution, I want to kind of highlight 3 different use cases that go through some opportunities to leverage machine learning. The first one I'm going to go through is anomaly detection. Second one is outlier reporting. And last, we're going to take a look at machine learning forecasting. So for the first one, what we're going to be looking at here is for anomaly detection. In this example, I'm going to be looking at this from a planner perspective. And so as a planner coming in, I'm going to build up my bottoms up plan across, in this example, say a subset of my expense accounts. What we're doing here is really embedding machine learning to build up a predictive version that will quickly highlight anywhere that we might be inside or outside bands of that plan, which really just helps us kind of catch those potential errors in our process. And not only the potential errors, but it also might draw our attention where we might need to add some commentary or add some explanation for why this might deviate, and really help us as we start to develop this plan that we want to submit up through the chain. So let's take a look at how this actually looks in the software. And so as I see here, we've got this all built out. We've got our plan built. By clicking a button, I can see the anomaly detection, hover over some data, get some more information where it's inside or outside bounds, and ultimately add that commentary to be able to see kind of what those, explain what those changes are from an interaction perspective from that end user planner. Okay, let's highlight the next use case, which is really around outlier reporting. So taking the goodness of that predicted version that we just compared it from a bottoms up, maybe in this persona, I'm actually responsible for a cross section of the organization or the entire organization from a roll-up perspective. How can we leverage that predictive version to compare and again, catch any potential outliers where hopefully we're focusing our time on exceptions opposed to kind of manually going through each line by line by line. Okay, let's see how this would look in software. In this particular example, I've come into a report where we're looking at pulling that predictive version in the values in comparing against my working budget, and then leveraging the capability of the software to see variances and using highlighting to see where we might want to focus our attention. In this example, we could also drill in. So other expenses is high. Let's drill in by some form of it to see where in the organization we might have some issues with that budget data. So again, just some different ways to kind of interact with it. Okay, last use case that we'll go through is really about leveraging not only the predictive version to see and compare the guardrail, but now let's look at how we can leverage machine learning to actually generate a forecast that we might want to use as that baseline. Again, the key is how do we have that more intelligent starting point? Not only is it about kind of generating it from an accuracy perspective and helping us there, but one thing that also can help is if we think about kind of our complex business environments, there can be lots of different intersections that we have to plan at, many intersections. So by leveraging this technology, you also have the ability to bring some efficiency to that along with that accuracy. And then the last piece that I think is incredibly important that machine learning does really well is how do we incorporate some of that external data into the forecast? So, we as organizations all kind of know what external drivers could have impacts on our business, right? Whether it's things like inflation rates, things like consumer price index, some of these can put pressure on our business. Most folks have to do it intuitively and incorporate that data into their forecast. And it's hard to have something kind of concrete around what happens. Machine learning is actually really good about looking about all of that data, including external data, doing correlations and helping with the prediction on that front. So let's take a look at how this will look in the software as well. So in this case, I'm planning by region, by customer, by product. How many units are we going to sell in this example? And as you can see, from January through June, I have 0 data planned. And now I could start this with a bottoms up, but let's look at how we can actually leverage machine learning for this. I can choose where I want that forecast to be. the units, how much actuals to include, and even what algorithm I might want to include in that process, while being able to leverage that external data as levers if I want. All I have to do is click create and then come back to my plan, refreshing, and I'll be able to kind of see that starting point of data incorporated into my plan that I can then use as a baseline to then add on to it and add that human judgment into the overall planning process. And maybe some keys I'll just kind of highlight here is I've highlighted a few use cases. There's lots of opportunity in the planning space to incorporate these advanced technologies, and we'll see lots of different use cases being incorporated into technology as we kind of continue forward in the near years. All right, Hans, I'll turn it over to you.
Fantastic, thank you. Great presentation, Cody. I've just reverted to the previous slide so it doesn't go carry on playing. Yeah, great way to see what you can actually do with an EPM tool and what is already involved and added to this tool, where you don't have to bring different smaller tools to do your AI and ML. So that's fantastic. Thank you very much for that. And I just realized my webcam is off, but let us swiftly move on to the question you have for the other panelists. So if I may ask the other panelists to come and join us, and we can discuss our little mini discussion session. So from a technology perspective, where do you think it is the most impactful place to embed AI and ML? And let us go to Hashim to get a little bit of his experience on this. Hashim?
I think the biggest, so to speak, starting point and impactful point is data digitization. A lot of the companies, when I look at, and ours as well as the industry in general, I look at them, we're looking at the challenges for AI and ML, but we have not even still crossed the proverbial bridge of digitization. And if you don't do that, you're not gonna. So I think that's the key thing. Once you digitize and you have a lot of data available for you, then you can play with it. Then you can make something out of it. So I think in my view, that's the most impactful place. If you can do one thing in 2023, digitize, digitize, digitize.
Fantastic, great answer there. Tanya, what will your answer be? I know you are the guru of data and digitization. So
I lock in on Hashim, check. I personally believe that on the FP&A function, we have our largest benefits in helping that bottom-up process that Cody just addressed. Bottom-up probably leads most of us in the organizations to look not at the ERM systems, but rather on operational technology to find more truth in it and to work on Hashim's professionals, the outlining of data digitization. That only happens out there in all the business units, and where the benefit holders as FP&A function, as you gain insights that are made out of a sound databases.
Yeah, no, fantastic. And we've seen from all of your examples as well there, Tanya, where you guys have started implementing and are implementing AI and ML. And of course, that benefits the whole company and the bottom line very definitely. Cody, any sort of closing comments? Anything you'd like to add?
No, great insights from the panelists, and totally agree. I think data is the key to AI and ML, and then there's lots of opportunities with how folks in finance can leverage this. So, yep.
Fantastic, thank you for the answers. Stay on the camera. We now go on to our key takeaway, which is our sort of concluding element of our session. But just before we do that, we've got great number of questions coming in. I will keep reminding you, ladies and gentlemen, keep sending them. We will answer a few today. Those we can't answer, we will answer to you via email. So please carry on sending them, even through the Q&A session, if you happen to have one additional question. So, so the key idea here is to come up with one or two conclusions from your presentation. Let us go to Hashim. Hashim, what will be your one or two key conclusions you would like to leave members with today?
Sorry, I think the key conclusion here is a lot of companies in the past 10 to 15 years have, because of their internal controls of financial reporting as well as SOX documentation, documented the manual process they go through or partially manual process they go through for their day-to-day activities. Pick those up, go from end to end, and pick up small areas which are currently being done by humans manually and see how you can automate them. That's my key takeaway. That's the best way to start.
Fantastic point there. Brilliant. Thank you very much. Tanya, what will yours be?
My intention is to outline that there's a co-creation of wealth. And AI as a technology is depending on us humans, on our human intelligence, but it needs a lot of data that comes out of our organization. So digital transformation needs a management system to provide that sound databases. And anything that goes towards collaborative intelligence, technology and human, that can only be successful when we humans not only think about super things to develop, but as well on what is my basis. So that needs a special look at.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Great point there again. Finally, Cody, your conclusions.
Yeah, my conclusion. So even looking at that first poll question where 85% aren't using AI and ML, but some are thinking about doing it in the future, I would just say really look to your technology stack, right? Like lots of companies own lots of different technologies. I think there's lots of opportunity to try to see how you can take those small steps like Hashim kind of highlighted to start leveraging that. And really, again, coming back to, it's all about augmenting. Are there some small steps that can help you all do that job and get better at the job, and really look to technology and your vendors to help provide that as you look forward into the future.
Fantastic, brilliant answer there. Thank you very much for the concluding points there. So thank you for that. Let us move to our Q&A session here. So again, ladies and gentlemen, please keep sending your questions. We've got a lot of them. We'll try and answer a few of them. Unfortunately, we can't answer all. The rest will be answered via email. So first question to Hashim. We keep the order there going. Hashim, we saw the 16% hike in the value-added sort of services that we want to be doing once we're using AI and ML. And the question is much more around the maturity curve and the time to achieve the results. What are your experiences in terms of, okay, so I put something in place, how much time am I going to save? What added benefits this has, for example, please.
So our view was twofold, Hans. Number one was, if I can reduce human intervention, human bias from my planning process by creating an automated loop in the process through some form of AI, then that was number one, which was key for us. And then once we did that, the final aim and purpose was, how can I make the planning process so efficient that I don't spend time on the planning process itself, but the outcome of the planning process. So a lot of us are generally focused on so much of forecasting that the data that comes out of the forecast itself is not paid a lot of attention because we run out of time, so to speak. And that is what is more important part, because that's what drives your business, right?
Sorry, carry on.
No, that's just the gist of it, right? So make sure, reduce the time on the exercise of planning itself and spend more time on the outcome of planning.
Absolutely spot on there. Thank you very much. Great answer there too. A great question. Let's go to Tanya now. Tanya, you've presented to us, how you've transformed, digitize, monitor data. This question is twofold. Is first of all, this does require a big budget, but also how long, was the whole of this process? It didn't happen overnight.
overnight, that would be wishful thinking, right? Actually, we're never asked about how long. We're addressed rather the quality of data as a result to be satisfied and invest more. It's all about changing us humans, how we act. I talked about the process fidelity. Probably everyone knows about standard processes, but do we follow those? Is my output of the work handed over to the next person in my process chain that what it was as it was expected? And so throughout the change, the work continues. We started out with a pilot that took us 6 months to learn, to come up with a blueprint, and we took another quite complex process to test what we found. So now a year later only, I think that is pretty fast for a large organization. We're ready to roll that out. But we won't do it in just telling everybody how we did it in the past 2 cases, but we take literally data owners at our hands and accompany them to learn about their process, to learn about their applications that are used in those processes, and to understand the data flow and where are the pain points that lead to quality misfunction of data. And then there's a team for that person who take care of making a better world. Mm-hmm.
No, absolutely. Great point there. Of course, you know, the initial first step takes a lot longer. When you go to the second new approach or second piece of AI and ML, you've got a lot of learning from the first one that you can put into play as well. So excellent answer there. Let us go to Cody now. Cody, thank you for showcasing the tool. You shared with us different algorithms, and of course, these algorithms are embedded in the tool itself. Can you share with us what are the different algorithms that some of the tools already have embedded, please?
Yeah. So the beauty of machine learning is a lot of this stuff is open source, right? And so the beauty of that is we have a couple that are embedded in our software, one of them being Profit, which is an open source algorithm extremely popular in the time series space. Another is in Beats, kind of the same idea. The whole idea with our strategy is we are looking to those best of class open source algorithms that can help with as many different types of data as possible. We all know in the planning process, there are some data that have different forms and shapes. And so those are the couple that we're using. But I think that, again, the beauty of this is there's lots of really great open source ones, and we'll continue to leverage and embed those types of capabilities in our platform.
Fantastic there. Of course, you know, a great answer. And of course, the one tool that could actually help you in various different sort of work stream, which is brilliant. Because of time, I will just put one question to the general panel here. And these days, we're talking a lot about ChatGPT. How can ChatGPT help us or not within finance, within AI and ML? I don't know whether you guys have had experiences, but if you'd like to share them. Hashim, quick answer from you. Any sort of experience?
Yeah, I mean, I think as I see it, there's ChatGPT versions of it coming out every week, which are enhancements. And I was reading about one today, which is the most interesting one, whereby you give data to it and it builds graphs and you know, presentations for you. If you ask me right now, that's the best one I would rely on. Not give it to analyze the data but to present the data for me instead of me spending time there. I think that's the best utilization. Can it do more? Hopefully, we'll see that in time.
Brilliant. Tanya, quick answer from you.
Personally, I love it. It's fun to use. Though in an enterprise context, it's difficult still for us here in Germany, especially, but with the GDPR, we're very reluctant to rush into the tool and open up our most important goal within the company, which is data.
Yeah, absolutely spot on there. Cody, final a quick comment from you.
Yeah, maybe same across the panel. I think it's very interesting. I think there's lots of opportunities, lots of insights that it can help gain, but we're trying to think of the right responsible way to incorporate it in software given all of the sensitive nature of data. So this is something we're certainly looking at, but something that'll be evolving for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point, don't give up your EPM tool yet.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
very sensitive, and as Tanya said, they can't even use it. So you know, so just beware. So thank you very much for answering the question. We haven't got time for any more, but please stay on the camera. The rest of those questions will be answered to you directly. So what have we got next? So please have a look. We've got 2 upcoming webinars. Very interesting one. Because it's an AI and ML webinar, we've got an AI and ML committee. We're always looking for new members, but we also have a lot of use cases, etc. So please join us there and have a look for yourself. Finally, I'd just like to let you know that our FP&A Trends Maturity Model has gone to the next level. You can now, using the link, map your own company versus the best in class. So please go and have a look at it. Great time now to say thank you to our sponsor Workday for making this possible. So thank you very much, Workday. To our panelists, Tanya, Hashim, and Cody, for making this possible. Great insight, great presentation. Thank you for answering all of those fantastic questions as well. And finally, to our audience for making the time. Hopefully it's been very beneficial to you and you will embark on that next step to your AI and ML journey. This is a few ways that you can link up with us, so please do. I am just about to close the meeting. Just like to remind you that when I do close it, there's a feedback session, so please give us 30 seconds. Let us know how we did and also what you'd like to hear from us. Ladies and gentlemen, this now concludes our session for today. Hope you've had a great time with us and great insight. We thank you for being with us. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. See you in the next one. Thank you very much, all, and see you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.